Hi, my name is Madi and I am a Colorado knitter. This is my channel all about knitting, knitting, and knitting. You can also find me on Instagram at Colorado Knitter and on Ravelry at Colorado 5 Knitter. Um, let's see. So if you're new here, thank you for checking me out. Mostly I talk about my obsession with knitting and yarn. And I love test knitting. And I also learn a ton during test knitting because that's this beautiful hobby. There's always something new to learn. If you're coming back again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you and I love connecting with you all. All right, so let's get started with what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Simmer Dim tank, and it's by Gudrun Johnston. So it has tiny little straps here that are little I-cords, and it has kind of like a smock little neckline. The front and back are identical. It has a little bit of waist shaping. Which is actually, instead of going in, it actually A-lines out, which I love, and it doesn't hug my tummy. It is knit in Jamieson's Ultralace. I always get the names of the two Jamiesons mixed up, but it's Jamieson's Ultralace, and I bought it at Jimmy Bean's wool, and it's a beautiful white. It's just a very white, and I love it. And mostly I wear it with little coats or a shirt over. And then when I get hot, because of being 47 years old, I can take it off really quickly and be comfortable. The Ultralace it blooms and blocks beautifully. I highly recommend it. When I was working with it, I wasn't too sure. And then once I soaked it, it was just gorgeous. And it's so comfortable to wear. It is not scratchy. And magically, it's not hot, and it's just keeps me at the right temperature. But I love it, so highly recommend Simmer Dim top. Okay, so a couple of things I finished kind of with a little bit of panic knitting, which is not my favorite way to knit, is so I got to enjoy a Gudrun Johnston class up at Maker and Stitch in Edwards, Colorado a few weekends ago, and it was awesome. I got to meet Grace of let's see, Little Minky on Instagram, and on YouTube, she's Catnip Podcast, which I've watched her for a while, so it was fun to meet her and her mom. And there were other lovely makers there. I had never been to Maker and Stitch store. And then Kat from Knitworthy Yarns, who spends many months of the summer in Breckenridge. She was able to come out and visit and hang out and have lunch with Gudrun Johnston and I and take a little walk. It was just amazing and a dream. And it's been, time flies, and it's been a little while since we've been out there, but I really enjoyed it, and I'll go over the class with you in a bit. But for that event, I tried to rush through and finish this gorgeous Dokey, which I showed a bit of it last time. So all I had to do was the body, and I'll cover this a little bit later as well, but Gage has not been my friend this past few weeks, and that is my fault. It's nobody else's fault, but I get so excited to knit the things that I knit this, knit the sleeves, love the yoke. Of course, I put it away for a good chunk of time, probably a year, then picked it up for this awesome event. And as I was knitting the body, I realized I was running out of yarn, this main color. And yep, I surely did. This yarn is Jamiesons and Smith, which I bought a long time ago at Fancy Tiger Crafts. And so the bottom of the sweater has this awesome detail where you start to do short rows in the back. And so I don't know if you can see at the bottom how the hem of the back is a little lower. Well, I didn't do 2 rows of short rows because I was getting afraid of how much yarn I had left. And so my ribbing is very small because I was running out. In fact, let's see if I can find the spot. As I was binding off, I had to use a smidge of holst, which you can barely notice, but I don't know if you can see in the bottom, this portion here is actually a different color. It's a smidge of holst. So I did finish in the nick of time. I never ever paid attention to if I would have enough yarn. I just was like, oh yeah, this should work. And I went for it and it ran out, but it still works. It is cropped, but I like cropped tops because I don't know what to do with the hemline anyways, and I usually wear high-waisted pants. So this one I did actually wear with a collar shirt under because I knew it would get warm and I would need to take it off as the day went on in the mountains. But it's awesome. Highly recommend the Yokey Dokey. The top is so fun. I had mentioned I was unsure about the width of this, but it's the whole look where it works really well with this hemline that's kind of curved and a little longer in the back. So it's perfect. I love it. It's very comfortable, blocked beautifully, love the colors, and highly recommend the Yokey Dokey. All right, let's see if there's anything else about the Yokey Dokey I can tell you. Yeah, I think that's it. The next sweater I finished is this Bluewater Sweater test knit for Tressa Weidenaar. And I had mentioned that last time on the last video that I had messed up on gauge and knit the entire yoke and tried it on, and then I re-measured my gauge because it was huge and it was way off, like not good, way off. But oddly, the sleeves of my first sweater were almost a little tight, and I had gone up 2 needle sizes to do my sleeves on this sweater. So what I wanted to do was to salvage the sleeves I had already done. So I re-knit the entire body on a smaller needle, getting gauge, and it fits much better. And then I cut off the sleeves of the other version, and I knit the 4 rows here, and I kind of unraveled the sleeve from before. I have a hair in my glasses, which makes me crazy. I unraveled until I knew that I was 4 rows in here to match the pattern, and then I grafted it. And grafting, in this case, I used Kitchener stitch, which is oftentimes the recommendation for if you're closing up a toe from a top-down sock. I'll put some pictures here. I did have a video on Instagram, which is not a very great video of me doing it. But I'm going to show a picture here of when the tension of my Kitchener stitch was too tight and the inside had like a ridge, which I have done that on occasion on socks as well. But the idea is to have it completely seamless so it looks like there's no grafting. And then oftentimes I feel like this on the stockinette side you can't, or the knit side you can't necessarily see if there's a ridge, but on the inside you could feel it for sure. And then you could see it in the purls. But now when I adjusted all the tension, and my second one I did much looser, it's even, so it should be seamless like that. But very happy that it worked out, because I mean, worst case scenario, I was just gonna re-knit the sleeves, but I'm glad I didn't have to. And this cute tag, our local yarn shop, let's see, I always say the name wrong, You and Me, a Yarn Boutique, is closing. They were quite successful, but they are ready to retire. And so everything in the Colorado Springs knitting store, is closing and is 50% off. And so I got these cute tags a few weeks ago, and this is the back. And there is definitely many times where I have to switch things around because I put it on backwards. But super happy. This should be released pretty soon, so keep an eye out for it. It's very quick, seeing that I knit the whole body twice. And the texture is addicting. This is in the Farmer's Daughter Pishkin DK, and Buffalo Gal is the color. And it definitely is a little bit textured, and some of the spin on the yarn can have a little bit of a bigger blip every now and then, but I think it makes a great rustic sweater. And I enjoy that texture, especially with the look up here. It is hand-dyed yarn, so I actually just used a single skein of yarn up here, and I did helical knitting once it was just regular stockinette stitch in the body. And then once I got down to the texture again, I did not do the helical knitting. I just used the rest of the ball or the skein I had. And the sleeves, I did not do helical knitting. I just used a skein and then a skein. And I think it worked out well. I do think helical knitting was a must in the body here. It was too hard for me to figure out how I wanted to do it in the texture. So I just went with a one skein for those moments. All right, so keep an eye on that. That should be out soon. Sweater number 2. Sweater number 3, there's an issue with gauge again. Oh gosh, that's so bad. So I need to slow down and not be so excited and make a tiny little swatch and say, yeah, that looks good. I have to say that I usually measure throughout the project. I check if my sleeves if I need to go up a needle. I check during my project, because my gauge swatches are not always a reflection of what it's going to do when I'm knitting in the round, or when I'm knitting and we're on the go and you just knit tighter or looser or who knows what. But this case, my stitch gauge was on, and I was like, oh great, super, let's go for it. And my row gauge was off, so like the height. And this is a bottom-up sweater, and it made a difference. I was checking the stitch gauge throughout. I was making sure it was on. I made sure it was on for my sleeves. Everything looked good, and not once did I check row gauge, because I don't often do that, because you often knit for a certain amount of inches or centimeters. Well, this mattered, and forevermore I'll remember that bottom up, it really does matter, the row gauge. And I think I've declared 2025 the year of getting gauge, row and stitch, and slowing down and making a bigger swatch and enjoying that, instead of just jumping in so quickly. So the next sweater is the all fall sweater, and it's by Casual Knit Studio, who has designed a gorgeous sweater. It's a little damp still, so I'm not gonna tug on it too much, but this is the beautiful color of chestnut on Ritual dye yarns. One of my favorite things that was new to me is, so it's a bottom up sweater, and then you do this awesome shaping on the front and the back, which is done flat. The body I did in the round, and the instructions offer flat knitting or in the round. But I've never done this before. So I don't know if you can see this little edging here before the ribbing starts. And so the designer has you actually pick up and knit a single crochet chain around the neckline, which it probably makes it a very stable neckline. It's a neat little detail. I think it looks beautiful. It still stretches. I didn't know if it would be like tight there, but when I try to put it on, it stretches and it just fits really well. I went up a needle size to knit this compared to the designer. I did swatch width-wise, never paying attention to the rows. And it's my fault because she definitely has it written down like how many rows should equal this many centimeters. So again, I was in a hurry and just excited to knit, knit, knit. And so oftentimes I'll just knit to the length because I'm with the guys or we're at soccer games or I'm not necessarily keeping track of every single row. The other thing I actually did differently because I was running out of yarn is I did not do the setup rows for the tubular bind offs. I did the sewn bind off, and some of the testers did the setup rows, and it does look quite beautiful and stunning. This looks okay, but there is a difference when I see the testers' beautiful finish on the sleeves and the neckline. Again, I do enjoy the sewn bind off, and I do like that it doesn't add extra yarn or thickness, but I do think it would look beautiful on this one. But this is the sewn tubular bind off, which does not have the 2 setup rows. Now let's see, the neckline and the cuffs here, I used a US 1, which was not fun on my hands. It actually, since I went up at 1 needle in the body, I went up 1 needle in the neckline and the cuffs, and recommended size is US 0, but US 1 was already challenging because this is a DK weight. It's a fingering with a mohair. Again, the yarn is Ritual dyes. I believe it's Maven for the fingering weight and Fae for the mohair, and it's the color chestnut, which I do adore the color, and I will wear it a lot. It fits beautifully, just a little different than the designer had planned. My sleeve length is great. I have pretty short arms. I am a short human, but I have a long torso. So oddly, sometimes I kind of like the crop look to make my torso look a little shorter. But the designer did design this to have a little bit more length and ease. But overall, I really like it. And to give you the numbers, so gauge for rows, so then adjusting the length, my gauge was 28 stitches to equal 4 inches in height in the rows, and the pattern calls for 26. Again, my stitches were on, so I'm laying it flat because it's damp and I don't want to get it all wrinkled. But as soon as it comes out, I will wear it and post it, and I'll probably wear this a ton. I do, again, love the color. It was really fun to knit. I used up all the yarn, so that's always good. I like that. Let's see. I did let the designer know those changes that happened for me, and she was only concerned that her calculations were wrong, but overall she was very open and happy that I was happy with the length and the knit. And so I'm excited for you guys to see all the testers' beautiful jobs. A lot of the folks finished this so fast, and this was probably the fastest test knit I've ever done, which was faster than my comfort level. So I'm glad it's completed so I can give her some feedback and share with you guys. So All Fall Sweater, which is a great name. It'll totally be worn all fall. Let's see, anything else I wrote down about that? Gauge is what I wrote down. I was bummed. I was a little bit bummed that I hadn't paid attention to that. But now it's ingrained in my brain, and I will take that into account, because no joke, forever I've never really paid attention to the row gauge. Let's see. That's all I have, which is a ton of finished objects. Again, I'm super glad that I got that done for her. And now I'm going to show you a couple other things. What I'll do is I'll start with talking about the Maker and Stitch shop and the Gudrun Johnston class and visit. Let's see. Edwards, Colorado is about, it's past Vail, Colorado. So it took me about 2.5 hours, easy driving, no bad weather. I left so early in the morning that there was no traffic. And I got to take a little walk before Maker and Stitch class started, which was also good after sitting so long. But the store is gorgeous. It's in this cute little plaza that has a wonderful restaurant, which we ate lunch at, and it's like there's a river walking distance from it. The owners of the shop were lovely, and so you walk in and you get to the little shop, and in the back they have classes and where they store their supplies. And here's their beautiful bag that they provided for the class. And what is awesome is the back is this clear, kind of like this netting, so you can see what's in it. And so Gudrun had 2 palettes to choose from, already done in these bags. And I chose this palette, which you can see the awesome colors. And then half the class chose this palette, half the class chose a different palette. And this is the Jamieson's Shetland Spindrift. Which I love this yarn. It is 100% pure Shetland wool, grown and spun on the Shetland Isles. It is so fun to work with, so beautiful in color work. I definitely love this yarn. So again, here's the beautiful colors. And so what we would do is we were given a set of instructions and a chart, 2 charts that you could choose from, and then you got to pick which colors you wanted. And so while we knit, which I love this, while we knit, Gudrun spoke about Fair Isle and what makes it different from stranded knitting or other types of colorwork knitting. A few tidbits that I can remember, because after when I came home I started reading about it, but that was a few weeks ago, and I don't remember everything I read. But one main thing is that there's only 2 colors worked in a row. You don't have, for Fair Isle, which is a location, that type of knitting is 2 colors in a row, not 3 or more. And the other thing is oftentimes, I think I could show the chart, but I'll show the chart. So one of the things that blew my mind and I didn't really realize was, so if you could see, I'm just going to show kind of the key for the chart. So here's the key, and you have, let's see, the background colors are these blues in this case, and then these are the main colors for the decoration. Well, if you can notice, it kind of is gradual changes here, and then gradual changes here. And so the idea is that it doesn't tend to look like striping in a sweater or a knit. It's more gradually flowing through, like say watercolor like, or it just doesn't end up being striped. The other thing that struck me was she kind of had you, so as the blues are laid out here, you would actually lay out the beautiful colors you had in graduating colors, how you would knit them, which was helpful next to these. So then you could see which yarn would go with the main design in each case, the background and then the main design. Hopefully that makes sense. But that blew my mind. I don't know why I didn't even think of that, that it was kind of flowing in 2 different graduating colors. The background was graduating, and then the main was also doing it. That was one thing that blew my mind. Number 2, swatching in the round is a thing, right? So we always, we either make a hat or a cuff or a sock or something to think, okay, how do I mimic my gauge in the round? And sometimes we like loop these big strands behind it to do it as well. Well, never have I thought of swatching in the round by just cutting the end, which was way more comfortable knitting it that way. So you would knit on the right side all the way across and break the yarn, and then scoot it to the beginning of the needle again, and then knit on the right side across, and then break the yarn, which for some reason it never dawned on me to do that, and I much preferred that. And it makes a beautiful swatch. So this has only been steamed, which we steamed in the store, and I don't know if you can tell, so my colors on the background are the blues, and they graduate from blue, gray to a white, and then the main are this rust orange to the yellow is the design. So sort of hoping to make where the design gradually flows from color to color and the background does the same. Number 3, what blew my mind was, so say you have half a swatch and you only have knit this much. And you're like, oh, I just don't know. You know, I'm kind of rushed on time. I don't know if I like it. Well, she had this brilliant thing where she just, you can put, I'm not sure if I could show you. Yeah, I think I could. We'll see if that even comes across on your side at all. So let's see, how can I do that? Maybe I'll put a picture up instead. But in other words, so I'll put a picture up here. But the idea is that you have your half and you put your mirror, and I'm sure you can't see anything that I'm showing you, but it'll mimic the other half of the design to give you kind of that motivation to say, oh, I do like it, or no, that's not what I'm looking for. Again, I'll put a picture again instead, and the idea is just to kind of lay it like that and to give you a visual of what it would look like, because it's symmetrical. Usually the designs are symmetrical where one half is done and then you reverse it to do the other half on Fair Isle. But I could see it really good. But I don't know if you can. These little guys are really cute, and they come in a case and they're just on Amazon, but I can link that below. But that was a good idea, and again, I'll put it here so it's easier for you to see. That was, I think those were the main things that totally never ever have thought of doing, which is the reason we knit with people and watch YouTube channels or look at reels and Instagram and take classes, because there's always more to learn, and if we share, we can share these awesome little tidbits with each other. Let's see. Okay, so that's pretty much the summary of the class. Afterwards, Gudrun was gracious enough to have lunch with Kat and I, and which we just walked over, and I'm sure she was exhausted of talking and socializing and ready to eat and sit down, but she was lovely and fun to hang out with. And then we took a walk on the little river path. And it started raining on us, but it was just beautiful Colorado weather and a great afternoon. And then we all went our own ways, and it was fantastic. So I'm super thankful that Gudrun made her way out to Colorado and taught such amazing classes, and then hung out with us afterwards. All right. So when I came home, I was all Fair Isle in my brain. So I did cast on the Shetland Solstice hat. Shetland Solstice hat, which is here. I love the colors of the hat as it is, but I wanted to use what I had, which I did. I have a lot of Jamieson and Smith because of the proximity I had in the past to the Fancy Tiger craft shop. And this is 2-ply jumper weight. And Gudrun was saying that this is the same wool, just a different mill. It's what I had on hand. And so I used some of the bits from this beautiful bag that was curated for us. And I used some of the Jamieson and Smith that I had. And so this is what I have going on. Again, kind of keeping the idea. Now this one is a little different in design because if you notice the beanie, it actually looks striped, which is fun too. And so this is all I have for now, which I tried to mimic the, I guess, so I don't even know how to say it in the right lingo, but what I did to choose the colors was I actually took a picture and changed the Solstice hat into black and white to see where there was a big difference in color. What would you say, like depth or darkness or contrast? So that's what it is. I was trying to find which sections and bands had the biggest contrast. And then I took a picture of the yarns I had available to me and tried to mimic the same contrast level. And so we'll see what it looks like in the end. I think I actually like the colors for Donnie, but regardless, working in color work and with the Shetland wool is one of my favorite things to do. It definitely softens up, and this is just steam, and this is, I'm not sensitive. I don't have sensitive skin anyways. And it's woolly, but doesn't weigh anything, which I do love that. So I'm excited to keep going on this, and it definitely was perfect for when I was craving more of that color work. Okay, let's see. Anything else? I have one more cast on because it wouldn't be me if I didn't cast on something new. And it is a test knit. I think this is my last test knit, maybe for a while, because I kind of got bonked after the all fall sweater because I felt so flustered and rushed, which nobody needs to knit like that. But I have it in one of the Della Q bags that I just got from the Knitting Place. I saw they had these combos online and just newly in, and you get both of these bags for the same price, and they have a good gusset so they could stand up, and then they have a zipper, which I feel like is awesome. The stripes I definitely think is so fun, but it fits really nicely in my tote bag, and then all the stuff doesn't fall out, and the little guy also has a zipper. So like for this beanie, for example, I need to move up a needle size once I get to the body of it versus the brim. And so I'll put that needle in here. But I love that you can snap as many as you want, and there's not going to be a zipper, and it won't fly out of my tote bag that is just open top. But what it is Briana Arlene test knit. It's called the Wild Iris, and it is let's see, a DK weight hat, and the brim is in brioche, which I haven't done brioche in a while, and I was really excited to do that again because it's such a rhythmic and squishy, like it's so squishy fabric that's created. I love her patterns because she links YouTube channels to help you with techniques if you're not familiar. She offers tips. So like the idea is you create this brim and brioche, and the link to do a 2-color cast on, which was awesome, and creates this beautiful edging. And then you do brioche, and the idea is that you fold it over, and you can choose to fold it over to this side, or what I'm gonna do is keep it on, this is gonna be the side that's folded over, and then the top of the hat will be just this white. And so there's 2 ways to cast on. You can cast on with the idea that you're gonna eventually fold it over this way, which is what I did. And then as you knit, and if you change your mind, she offers a way to adjust that so that you can actually keep it this way, even if you casted it on with a different intention. And so that was awesome because you're like knitting along. You're like, but I really like this side. And then I read the next note and she's like, oh, and if you really like that side, you can just keep going and we'll turn a corner and make it so that you can keep this to be the outside. So I love it. It's very squishy. It is in Ritual dyes. This one is the same base. However, it is the DK light worsted in Elder versus the Maven that I used for the all fall sweater. And then I'm using just these Stay Ready. And this is I never get this right. It's the heavier weight. So not this, is it the spurt weight? I don't know. It's the heavier spincycle one. And this is in Stay Ready as the colors, which I like the browns. So I will only use the Stay Ready until I'm done with the brim. And then the rest will be a ribbing white. And I think it's really fun. I think it's nice, and I love the squish of the brioche. So it's been fun to get back on the brioche. One tip I have is casting on in the actually I feel like casting on in tubular stitch ever, or in the 2-color tubular cast on, go down a few needle sizes. I actually went down 2 sizes. So I cast on with a US 2 and I'm knitting this with a US 4, and then the body will be in the US 5. So I think it gives a much prettier bottom because it kind of is a little loose of a cast on, but it tightens it up by going down a needle size. But very fun, super excited to finish that up. And I love knitting. So as I mentioned, I am going to try really hard to focus on gauge, and take my time. And so I just recently saw on Andrea Mowry's I'll Knit If I Want To podcast, her talking about gauge. So oftentimes I actually will just lay one of these on my swatch or on my progress sweater or whatever I'm knitting to measure and check and see where I'm at. How is it going? Sometimes I just measure the inch to make sure it's still looking even, and that's fine. And oftentimes I'll put 2 T-pins on the sides to really like, okay, is it really, am I trying to fudge it as I count? But Andrea Mowry, I had this just hanging on my wall, and she recommended this, and something that was more stable, something that when you lay it on your knit, you don't push it down, like you just lay it gently on, kind of let go, and then you can count, and you can count rows, which you never do, and stitches. And the idea, I think, of laying it gently on the knit was huge, because I'm sure I like push it against, like push it down, and then the stitches stretch out. So I'm gonna try to be better about gauge. And so that brings me to my Hobonichi haul, which if anyone's interested, I do love the Hobonichi planner and the feed about Hobonichi journaling and all that. But it was Hobonichi time, August 31st, I think, and this is my haul. And this is playing into my goals for 2025. And I usually always get the weeks. And so this is 2024 weeks. And this is this coming year's weeks. And this is the Mega, which I've never had the Mega, which is a little thicker. And you can see in comparison, this is just the regular weeks. So the Mega has, you know, the normal calendar in the front, and then it has the daily stuff, which I use this a ton, and I use this side a ton. And then in the back of this, though, it just has many blank pages, which is what is going to be new for me this year. And I couldn't resist the cover on cover, because it had this yarn and a mitten, and so I did add the cover on cover this year. to my navy planner. And then I always get the Hobonichi Techo 2025. This time is 2025 original, which is the A6 size. I like the A6 size. I wish everything was the A6 size. But I don't know why I love this size. And so this is the one that I don't necessarily care what date it shows. I just love to put stickers or watercolor or draw or doodle or tape yarn pieces in or yarn labels. So I mostly just kind of have fun with this. And I have covers already, the A6 covers of previous years that I'll just use. So that's my Hobonichi haul. I don't know if anyone else out there are planner people or Hobonichi people. I love the paper. I love the fountain pens. This is a Kaweko fountain pen, and this is just the resin one, so it's very lightweight, and an extra fine tip, which I also love. And it fits beautifully in the cover on cover, so it's always there and always ready. But that's my Hobonichi haul. So, swatching 2025, that's the plan. The next big thing I'm gonna finish, and I am pretty excited. I get to go see Gabe and his girlfriend soon and help them move in to college for their junior years, their third years in college. I'm taking with me the garden cardigan. So that's my next big focus. I would like to finish that before Rhinebeck. It's a very enjoyable knit. I just get distracted. And I've noticed that I want to wear it as the season is getting cooler and cooler. But I am pretty excited to knit on that and show you all the things next time. So finally, the last thing I'll share is what I'm listening to, which has been a really great book. I've been listening to The Lion Women of Tehran. It's really good. I love when a book kind of starts in the present and then moves back to talk about a childhood and memories that way. So I'm enjoying it very much, and I actually saw it recommended by Kim of the Knitting Posse, and it's a great book. So I'm super glad I saw that recommendation. All right, I think that's all I have for today. I need to clean and do laundry, and I will talk to you all soon. See ya.